What is going on, everybody? This is episode 5 of Let's Be Frank with your host, Frank Mattis. Today, I have a lot to get into. I'll obviously discuss the disastrous Monday Night Football loss from the Philadelphia Eagles. I will talk about some concerns I have with the Philadelphia pitching, and I will talk about the Flyers as they open training camp today. And I'll also get into the Sixers for the first time in this pod. So, there's a lot to get into. And like we always do, let's talk about those Eagles, unfortunately, because I was bad Monday night. I was really bad. And, I had 2 days to digest that loss, and I'm still not over it like many of you are not over it. That I saw a stat that was like the 7th most improbable loss since 2016 in the NFL. And that game was won. That game was definitely in our grasp, and we blew it. We absolutely blew it. It was definitely a choke job by the Philadelphia Eagles. And first of all, I want to talk about the decision on passing it on 3rd and 3 at the goal line. I wouldn't have made that play call. I wouldn't have made that decision, but that play was to be had, and that should have been caught by Saquon. And clearly the coaching staff saw something in terms of a matchup, and they decided to throw it on 3rd and 3, and it was there to be had. And, unfortunately it was dropped. So I don't necessarily mind, because if he scores, then Kellen Moore looks like a genius. I mean, if you think about Super Bowl 52, right, you think about the Philly or the Philly special. If that play isn't executed and they turn the ball over on downs, then Doug Peterson, if they were to lose that game instead of kicking the field goal, then Doug Peterson, is raked over the coals for that. But obviously it was executed, and it's one of the greatest plays in Eagles history. Not saying that this would be one of the greatest plays in Eagles history, since it's only a week 2 game, but people would have been all over Kellen Moore and given him his praise, and it was to be had. That play was to be had, and unfortunately Barkley dropped the ball. I wouldn't have personally done that, but it was a good play call, and it should have been executed, and it wasn't. So, unfortunately we got burned there. What I also have an issue with is not going for it on 4th there, because you're still up by 3, right? So in theory, you would think all Atlanta needs is a field goal as opposed to a touchdown. If you score another field goal, they have to still try to go for a touchdown. And with that defense, as you saw, got burned, and you at least give them that option of kicking a field goal as opposed to going for the win like they did. So, and he also went for it on 4th early on in that game, when he didn't have to. And it was late in the game, and that's your MO, and you set a precedent. Why didn't you go for it on 4th down there? So I obviously had issues with that. And then, obviously we kicked the field goal. We didn't go for on 4th there. And then, Kirk Cousins, Mr. Immobile, Mr. Not so clutch on Monday night, made us pay. And that defense is a problem. Cannot stop the run, and we cannot get after the quarterback. And that is not a recipe for success. Again, our 2 D linemen from Georgia, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, were a no-show, got absolutely obliterated by the interior of the Falcons offensive line. And I know the Falcons offensive line is one of the best O-lines in football, but we spent all that equity trying to, to solidify our defensive line and bring in these highly touted guys from Georgia. And that's just unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. And if you saw the Jeff McClain report, if you noticed early in the game that Jalen Carter did not start, well, turns out he missed a meeting. It's like, dude, you lost money by acting like a jackass in college with the car incident. Like you lost money. You could have went in the top 3 at the very least, possibly won. He was arguably the best player coming out that year, and you cost yourself money. You should know better. You should absolutely know better that you are under a huge microscope given your mishaps in college. And you still haven't learned? And to top it all off, you don't show up? Dude, unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And speaking of unacceptable, where's Bryce Huff? Where in God's name is Bryce Huff? This guy did not show up on the box score. Think about that. He started and did not show up on the box score. He didn't account for a sack. He didn't account for a tackle. He didn't even account for hitting the quarterback. Dude, this is what we paid $17 million for? This guy's a non-factor. We gave this guy $17 million and he's a non-factor and he cannot show up on the box score. I have no words. I have no words. That is so unacceptable. And then 7 yards a pop every single time they run the ball. Cannot stop the run whatsoever. What do you think Alvin Kamara is going to do this week? And I know JGJ had a great play on that fourth down stop, and it was a great tackle. Other than that, he's hit or miss. Nakobe Dean, hit or miss. And that last drive, unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. Kirk Cousins, the guy who craps the bed every single primetime game, not every single primetime game, but the majority of the primetime games he's played in, he's been a disaster, and he's immobile, and he's still not 100%. He even said it. He said he's not 100%. And you let that guy beat you. Big play Slay? Big play Slay my ass. Got embarrassed by Drake London on that touchdown pass. Embarrassed. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I was so excited, given what I saw from Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley in that game. And I was ready to come on here and talk about how these guys are going to be our closers. Well, that clearly blew up in my face. Obviously, you had the Barkley drop, and then you had the absolutely terrible decision by Jalen Hurts. And I'm not going to blame him, and give him the majority of the blame for the loss. I thought he played very efficiently, both as a runner and a passer. He looked a lot better running the football, and he looked a lot like Jalen Hurts from 2022. And I was very impressed. And I was ready to come on here and talk about how they're going to be tough to beat, him and Barkley. And then he throws that terrible interception, which was not there. You cannot do that, man. You cannot do that. You had one timeout, and you were 15 yards away from Jake Elliott's range. You had two chunk plays to get well within Jake Elliott's range to win that game. And you decide to play hero ball. Circa Carson Wentz of 2020. Can't do that, man. Cannot do that. Because like with Barkley, who had a very good game, that's the last image people are going to see. That interception. And it's going to nullify everything that you did in that game, which was very efficient, by the way. I was very impressed with Jalen Hurts in that game. And again, I'm not going to give him the majority of the blame. He should not have been in that situation. Cannot make that throw. There was nothing there. Devontae Smith was not open. He was not open. And you try to dare one of the best safeties in football? What did you think was going to happen? Come on, man. Come on, man. You're giving people. You're adding fuel to that fire of you being a turnover machine, dude. Come on, dude. Incredible. Yeah. That game was bad. That game was really bad. And they better wake up quick, because the New Orleans Saints look like they're for real, because they went into Dallas and curb stomped them. And that offense with Clint Kubiak calling plays, they look like a real team. Their offensive line was one of the worst O-lines in football, and they're one of the better units this year so far. I know it's 2 games, but they look really good. And if that defense is not prepared, Derek Carr will light that defense up like a Christmas tree. And it starts with our D-line. We spent $17 million on Bryce Huff. We spent 2 first-round picks on Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. We gave money to Josh Sweat. And I thought he did okay in that game. He had a really nice play on the run in which Bijan Robinson had a wide open lane, and he sort of saved that play. And then where's Nolan Smith? It's getting he's a bust territory now. Where's Nolan Smith? Did you? I know it was a sack by Milton Williams, but did you see the chip block by Bijan Robinson? He destroyed him. Destroyed him. This guy ain't it so far. And when Brandon Graham, and I love Brandon Graham, right next to me I have an autograph of the strip sack from the Super Bowl, the greatest play in Eagles history. I adore that man. But when he's your best pass rusher, arguably, that is a problem. That is a huge problem. You have to get after the quarterback, or this team is not going to get anywhere near a Super Bowl. And that's the expectation, especially when you have the offense like you have. And they put a premium on this D-line. They put a premium on this D-line, and it has not showed up, whether it's rushing the passer or stopping the run. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are getting blown off the ball. Blown off the ball. Something's got to change. Something's got to change. Because, could they make a trade for Max Crosby? Could they make a trade for Trey Hendrickson? Sure. But it shouldn't be. It should not be like this. When these guys are at their best, especially Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, they look like world beaters. They do not look like world beaters right now. Furthest thing from it. And it's got to change. Because like I said, that Saints offense looks like it's for real. And they will light you up like a Christmas tree if they do not get after the quarterback. It will be a long season. And then after that, you got to play Tampa, who's got a good offense. Baker Mayfield is arguably an MVP candidate. Not arguably, he is an MVP candidate at this moment. But it is only week 2. You can learn from your mistakes, at least offensively, right? Not turn the ball over, make better decisions in terms of play calling, sure some things up there. Because the Eagles' offensive line looks like they're still one of the best offensive lines in football. Devontae Smith, I thought played very well. He had a beautiful catch for the touchdown. Great awareness by him. Obviously, Barkley is a force. He had that drop, obviously, which is the last thing people are thinking about. And I thought Jalen Hurts played efficient football. So offensively, I think we'll be fine. We got to clean some things up. But defensively, holy crap, man. Sweet Jesus. Cannot get after the quarterback. Cannot stop the run. Something's got to change. I'm not sold on Devin White. The fact that he can't beat out Nakobe Dean is pretty alarming. And, his career's kind of gone downhill a little bit. But we need something. And if he's available, bro, this is your shot. This is your last chance to get the bag. You better show up because we need something. We absolutely need something. So hopefully they learn from their mistakes, and hopefully they can change some things. But but that was bad. That was really bad Monday night. And hopefully they can turn the page and get a W in New Orleans. Next, I want to talk about the Phillies. I have some concerns in regards to their pitching. Man, I'm nervous as hell about Jose Alvarado. That guy's a liability. And I know he had some good outings prior to Monday night. But I'm telling you this right now, if he has another bad outing, he cannot be on that postseason roster. No way. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That guy is a liability. He cannot be on that postseason roster if he has another meltdown like he did Monday night. Not a chance am I going to have him on my postseason roster. And it's a shame because he's a guy who has a lot of personality, and the last 2 years has been very productive and been a really good player in our bullpen. But this year he's taken a huge nosedive, and it's really sad because he's not the same guy. Not the same guy at all. So you got to monitor that situation if you're Topper. And I'm also concerned about Ranger Suarez. That guy's velocity is not there. It's not there. He's not what he was early on in the season. I mean, this guy was legitimately the front runner for the Cy Young. I know it was early, and obviously a lot can change in the season, but this injury is clearly affecting him. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned going into the postseason, and obviously, if you are paying attention, Walker will be starting tomorrow against the Mets. I don't know how I feel about that. Talk about a guy who's lost his velocity due to injury. I'm a little concerned there. I don't, hopefully, they're not thinking about putting him in the starting rotation for the playoffs, but Rangers, his stuff's not there. His stuff is not there, and I'm a little concerned. And I know there's a lot of concern about Aaron Nola. There's been talks about possibly putting Sanchez at number 2. I think that's a little extreme. Listen, Aaron Nola is going to have 1 or 2 games where it rains and pours, and he just doesn't have it. But I think the last couple years he has improved in the postseason. He has improved in clutch spots. I think people are a little bit too harsh on him, but obviously you don't want to have him have one of those games where it rains and pours in the postseason. So, you obviously don't want to see that, but to take him out of the 2 spot in the postseason, I think it's a little extreme. But I still like where the Phillies are in terms of offensively. Last pod I talked about their bench being a strong point and guys stepping up in a big way. And we had Sosa come back last night. So good there. I feel good about our bats. Castellanos continues to play good ball, and that's key because his last 2 postseasons haven't been the best, and that's going to be key. Getting him in top form. So I'm not terribly concerned with our bats, and even with some of the concerns I have with our pitching. If Ranger Suarez is your 4th guy, that's not a bad problem to have. Christopher Sanchez's last outing was phenomenal. So I feel confident there. Wheels obviously was lights out last night. Aaron Nola, say what you want about the guy. The guy's a really good pitcher. He will have some games where it's not there, but he's been consistent throughout these last couple of years and even beyond that. And I feel confident with him. So all in all, like I have some concerns, but I'm still optimistic about this team. And right now they're up 1-0 against the Brewers. Hopefully they can pull it out and clinch the playoffs sooner rather than later. Next, I want to talk about the Flyers. Let's talk about the Flyers because, I've been pretty negative so far on this podcast, and I want to talk about the positives. The rookie games were last Friday and Saturday. Mitch Goff and Avon had some good showings. Speaking of showing, a lot of fans there. There's for a rookie game or rookie games, it's pretty impressive. I knew a buddy of mine who I went to high school went to that game. There were a lot of people there, believe it or not, and obviously training camp starts today, and there's a buzz in the air with this Flyers team. There's absolutely a buzz in the air. Obviously Mitch Goff is a guy that a lot of people have their eyes on. And though last season obviously didn't end so well for the Flyers, they definitely overachieved when you really think about it. I was very impressed with Travis Konechny last year. I personally felt that he earned the C, but I'm not going to complain with Sean Couturier getting the C. He's a guy that embodies what a captain should be. He's a two-way player. He's obviously the longest tenured Flyer. So it makes sense. But I thought Travis Konechny, the way he played, in which the moxie he played with, I felt like he earned the C. But I'm not going to lose sleep with Couturier being the captain. I think that's fine. No problem. With those two guys there, and then with Mitch Goff, who a lot of people are excited about, and Avon, who had a really good showing in the rookie games and continues to get better. I'm very optimistic about this Flyers team. And there hasn't been a buzz with this team in quite some time, obviously. And there's been a lot of pessimism around this team, and with good reason. But people are excited, man. People are excited. When you factor in guys like Couturier and Konechny, which are the nucleus of your team, and you have this infusion of young talent with Mitch Goff, I think the Flyers are going to do some good things this year. I don't know about Stanley Cup, but then again, crazier things have happened. You can get on a heater and go far in the playoffs. I would love to see a deep Flyers postseason run. That's the one thing I want on my list. Obviously I had the Super Bowl with the Eagles, Super Bowl with the Phillies, or the World Series with the Phillies. If I were to pick between a Stanley Cup and an NBA championship, I would pick a Stanley Cup. I would love nothing more than to see the Flyers win the Stanley Cup. I don't know if they're going to do it this year, but they're trending in the right direction, and there is a buzz with this team. And if you want the best Flyers coverage, Flyers Alley on Old City Sports is your place to check out. Those guys are the best in the biz. Obviously Jesse Bell reported about Kozlov not joining the Flyers. And obviously that was a big story on ESPN, so he was ahead of the curve there. So if you want scoops, if you want the best info, the best intel, those are your guys. And before I get into the Sixers, I want to let you guys know about our sponsor, Warlord Beard Oils. If you go to www.warlordbeardoil.com and use the promo code OLDSPORTS, you get 15% off site-wide. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So if you go to warlordbeardoil.com, use the promo code OLDSPORTS, get 15% off site-wide. And if you spend $65 or more, you will get free shipping. So let's talk about the Sixers, because there's some big news today regarding the Sixers. As you saw, the city of Philadelphia, the mayor, Mayor Parker, approved the Sixers building a new arena, which will be built near the Jefferson station. And I have some mixed feelings about it. I personally love having the sports complex all in one area in South Philly. You obviously have the Link, you have the Bank, you have Wells Fargo Arena, which will obviously go under a name change. You have they plan on building a lot of other things around there as well, to make it even better. So I love that area. It's a vibe. There's a lot to do down there, and everything's all there. So I like that. But it is not the most accessible place. Driving down there is not always ideal. Parking's a pain in the ass. Also expensive. And, if you want to take the train down or take the subway down, you have to, go to a regional rail and then take regional rail to subway or go to a subway station, which is not relatively close to a lot of suburbs, with the exception of Cheltenham. Obviously, Fern Rock Station's there. But it's not the most ideal. But having a arena downtown, you can either take the subway if you live near the subway or want to drive near the subway, or take regional rail, which takes you right down to Center City. And there's regional rail throughout the suburbs of near Philadelphia, so that makes it more accessible. I'm curious to see all the how congested it can possibly get. Being in the city, it could cause some problems there. But in terms of parking and not having to worry about that does kind of help out there. So if you want to go to a game, you can just take regional rail and boom, you're right there. So that's convenient. Even though I do like having everything all in one area. It is very accessible to have an arena there. So that's sort of my thoughts there. So that's that. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly. As far as the Eagles go, it is week 2. There's some things that can change. A trade could possibly happen. Howie's obviously very savvy with that, and he's definitely going to probably monitor that given the lack of pass rush that we have. But that's not, you don't always want to go to there, but if we have to, it is an option. And that defense needs to get better. Something's got to change. And those Georgia boys, man, they got to step it up, because we spent a lot of high-quality draft picks on them. So it's on you, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Time to step up. Tough. We put a premium on that D-line, and it's not showing up, and something's got to give, and something's got to give soon, because the last thing you want is to be 1-3 going into the bye. So hopefully things change. That's going to be it for this podcast. And hopefully when I return and do this podcast again, the Eagles get a dub and solve some of their issues. So that's going to be that. Enjoy the Phillies game tonight. The Flyers have their first preseason game on Sunday, so I look forward to that. And obviously the Eagles play on Sunday against the Saints. So that's going to do it for episode 5 of Let's Be Frank. And I'll catch you later.